There comes a time when everything you thought you knew begins to collapse. You wake up one day and realize the people you loved are gone. The plans you made didn't work, and the person staring back at you in the mirror doesn't feel like you anymore. You ask yourself, why does life hurt so much? Why does success feel so empty? Why do people leave when you need them the most? But in the quiet between your questions, something else begins. A whisper, a shift, a truth you were never taught in school. That maybe pain isn't here to destroy you. Maybe it's here to awaken you. That failure isn't the end. It's the path. That love, loss, loneliness, and letting go are not signs of a broken life, but signs that you're finally living it. This isn't just another motivational video. This is a journey through the deepest parts of yourself, through the silence, through the fire, through the healing. These are the lessons life doesn't post on social media, the ones no one tells you until it's too late. So pause everything just for a while. Let this be the moment you stop running and start listening, because the truth is the greatest answers were always inside you. And this is where you finally begin to hear them. There are moments in life when silence screams louder than any noise, when your heart feels heavier than your body, and the world seems to keep spinning even though your own has come to a stop. Pain arrives uninvited. It doesn't knock. It just enters through heartbreak, through loss, through betrayal. And in those moments, everything you thought you knew begins to fall apart. You start asking questions that have no answers. Why me? How do I go on? Will this feeling ever end? But deep within that darkness, something begins to awaken. A quiet strength you never knew you had. Not the kind of strength that shows in your muscles or your words, but the kind that shows in your silence, in your survival. You see, pain has a strange way of stripping everything unnecessary away. It removes the fake smiles, the shallow friendships, the pointless noise, and what it leaves behind is just you, raw, honest, bare dot. And in that emptiness, something beautiful begins to grow. You start to hear your own voice, not the one shaped by expectations or fear, but the real one. The one that says you've been through worse. The one that reminds you you're still here. It's in those sleepless nights when your thoughts race faster than time that you realize who truly cares. People disappear. Friends become strangers. And silence becomes your only companion. But that silence, it's sacred. It teaches you more than noise ever could. It shows you how to enjoy your own company, how to sit with your wounds, and how to breathe even when it hurts. We often think that being rejected by a person, by a job, by life, means we're not good enough. But sometimes rejection is not a wall. It's a door closing for your protection, a sign that something better, something truer, is waiting just ahead. And then comes rock bottom, that place where you feel like you've lost everything. You can't pretend anymore. You're too tired, too broken. But here's the truth they don't teach you. Rock bottom isn't your grave. It's your foundation. Because when you've lost everything, you're finally free to build something real, something honest, something that's truly yours. Loneliness, too, becomes a teacher. You begin to realize that being alone isn't the same as being unloved. In fact, the deepest kind of love starts with you, learning to enjoy your own silence, treating yourself with the kindness you kept giving to others, becoming your own safe space. Pain, though brutal, makes you wise. You start noticing things you used to ignore. The tone in someone's voice, the heaviness behind someone's smile. You become more patient, more present, more human. But healing isn't a straight line. It's messy. Some days you feel like you've moved on. Other days, one memory can break you all over again. But that's okay. Healing isn't about never hurting again. It's about learning how to carry the pain without letting it define you. You learn how to sit with it, breathe through it, and eventually let it pass. And forgiveness. Forgiveness is the moment. You stop hoping for a better past. You stop trying to rewrite what already happened. You simply accept. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. As strange as it sounds, the pain you hated the most might be the very thing that shaped you into someone stronger, more compassionate, more alive. You didn't just survive your hardest days. You transformed because of them. You carry the scars not as signs of weakness, but as proof that you faced the fire and walked through it. So the next time life breaks you down, remember this. You are not broken, you are becoming. Success feels like sunlight. It warms you, it makes people notice you. It makes everything feel possible. But what most people don't see is the shadow behind that light. The quiet nights, the hidden doubt, the weight of expectations. People celebrate the victories, but they forget the struggle it took to get there. They see the outcome, not the process. They see the smile, not the sleepless nights behind it. Success often comes with a strange kind of loneliness. Because once you reach a place others admire, they stop seeing your humanity. They expect you to always win, always shine, never fail. But the truth is, success isn't always a reward. Sometimes it's a test of your character, a test of your humility, a test of whether you will remain grounded or float away in the praise. Real success doesn't make your ego louder. It makes your gratitude deeper. You start realizing that the true joy isn't in the achievement, but in the becoming. The late nights of effort, the small progress no one noticed, the moments you almost gave up but didn't. And then there's failure. It arrives quietly sometimes. Other times, it slaps you hard. A dream collapses. A plan falls apart. You hear the word no more than you ever imagined. Failure humbles you. It takes away your illusions. It forces you to sit with your limits, your fears, your blind spots. But failure is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you what needs to change. It shows you how much you want it. It shows you that effort doesn't always equal results. And that's okay, because failure doesn't say you're not worthy. It says, not this way, not this time, not yet, and still. We fear it, we avoid it, we act like it's shameful. But ask anyone who's built something real, they'll tell you, failure was their greatest teacher. It taught them to start again, to think differently, to let go of perfection, to get up even when no one's watching. Success may give you applause, but failure gives you depth. It digs into your character. It makes you choose whether you'll quit or continue. There are times when failure hits so hard, you question everything. You wonder if you're meant for anything at all. But then, in the middle of that despair, a small voice whispers, try again. And when you listen, that's when growth begins. No one talks enough about how fragile success can be. How one mistake, one moment, one decision can make everything fall apart. That's why real success is not about trophies or titles. It's about resilience, the ability to rebuild, to evolve, to stay kind, even when the world turns cold. The truth is both success and failure are temporary. They come, they go. What stays is who you become through them. One teaches you to celebrate, the other teaches you to reflect. One lifts you up, the other keeps you grounded. Together they form balance. Together they teach you how to grow with grace. So don't fear failure, and don't worship success. Instead, focus on becoming honest, becoming humble, becoming strong, not because you never fall, but because you always rise. Because at the end of it all, the greatest success is not in being better than others. It's in being better than the person you were yesterday. Asterisk. Human beings were never made to walk alone. From the moment we are born, we reach out for touch, for warmth, for connection. It's in our nature to seek others, to belong, to be seen. Love starts softly, a shared smile, a gentle word, an unspoken bond. We fall into it without knowing how deep it goes. And for a while, it feels like everything makes sense. Like someone finally understands the language our soul speaks. But love, in all its beauty, is also fragile. It tests your patience. It challenges your pride. It asks you to show up even when it's hard, to listen when you want to talk, to forgive when you want to walk away. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Some come to teach, some to heal, some to break us open. There are moments when someone you trusted becomes a stranger, when the warmth fades, when the silence between two people becomes louder than their words. And it hurts, not just because they're gone, but because they once stayed, because they knew your stories, your fears, your dreams, and now they look at you like a memory they don't remember living. Betrayal cuts deep, not because of what was done, but because of who did it. It makes you question yourself. Were you too much? Not enough? What did you miss? But slowly you learn, someone else's choice doesn't define your worth. Someone walking away doesn't mean you weren't lovable. It just means they couldn't love you the way you needed. And that's not your fault. You begin to understand that real connection isn't just about shared moments. It's about shared values, about consistency, about someone choosing you not only when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Friendships, too, are tested by time. There are people who laugh with you under the sun, but disappear when your sky turns grey. Then there are the rare ones who stand by you in silence, without needing a reason, who show up not because they have to, but because they care. Those are the ones you hold close, because in a world full of noise, they are your peace. And then there's the relationship we rarely talk about, the one with ourselves. We spend years trying to make others love us. But how often do we love ourselves? How often do we speak kindly to our own hearts? You realize that the most dangerous loneliness isn't being alone. It's being surrounded by people who don't truly see you, who only want parts of you, who only stay as long as you're easy to love. But real love, it stays when you're messy, when you're unsure, when you're healing. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It asks you to grow. And with time, you also learn to let go. Not every connection needs closure. Sometimes people leave without explanation. And your peace lies in not chasing answers. You begin to forgive, not to excuse what they did, but to free yourself from carrying the weight. You forgive because your soul deserves softness, because your future deserves lightness. Human connection is complex. It brings joy and pain. It builds and breaks. But even the most painful relationships leave behind a gift, a mirror into who we are and what we truly need. At the end of it all, we Remember people not for what they gave us, but for how they made us feel. Did they make us feel safe, seen, loved? So love with all your heart, but also protect your peace. Be open, but stay aware. Give, but don't lose yourself. And remember, the most powerful relationship you'll ever have is the one you build with your own soul. Asterisk, there comes a moment in life when you stop running, not because you're tired, but because you finally realize there's nowhere to run to. Peace was never out there. It was always within you. You stopped chasing people. You stopped proving yourself. You stopped trying to fix everything around you. And in that stillness, something changes. You begin to hear the sound of your own breath. You notice how the sun feels on your skin. You feel the rhythm of time, not as pressure, but as presence. This is where real growth begins, not with noise, but with silence. Inner peace isn't some magical destination. It's not about escaping the world. It's about facing it calmly. It's about choosing your response when everything around you screams for a reaction. You realize that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every conflict needs your voice. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Growth isn't loud, it's quiet. It shows in the way you pause before reacting, in the way you protect your energy, in the way you no longer need to win every argument, because peace matters more than pride. There's a certain power in solitude, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels whole. You stop being afraid of being alone. You start enjoying your own company. You read more, think deeper, feel more clearly. You understand that healing isn't always visible. Sometimes it's in the way you wake up with a little less heaviness, in the way your thoughts become kinder, in the way your heart begins to open again, slowly but surely. You also start letting go, not just of people or situations, but of old versions of yourself. The version that needed validation, the one that feared being misunderstood, the one that said yes to everything, even when your soul was screaming no. True growth is when you look in the mirror and smile, not because everything's perfect, but because you finally accept the person looking back. You begin to set boundaries, not to keep people out, but to keep your peace in. You learn that protecting your space is an act of self-love, that rest is productive, that your worth isn't tied to how busy you are, and you stop waiting for the weekend, for someone to love you, for life to begin. You realize that this moment is all you ever truly have, and that's enough. Sometimes the world tries to tell you who you should be, louder, sharper, tougher, faster, but peace whispers, be softer, be still, be true. You learn to surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. You stop forcing, you start flowing. You no longer push against life, you move with it. You realize that growth doesn't always mean becoming more. Sometimes it means becoming less reactive, less attached, less controlled by fear. And in that less, you find more clarity, more freedom, more joy. You begin to live lightly, not because life is light, but because you've lightened your heart. You carry peace, not just as a feeling, but as a way of being. You walk through chaos with grace. You listen without judgment. You speak with intention. This is not the kind of success the world celebrates, but it's the kind that changes lives, because a peaceful soul can light up the darkest room. So if you're on this path, keep going, even when it's hard, even when no one understands, even when growth feels invisible, because in the silence of your becoming, the world begins to shift, not outside of you, but through you. You are not just living, you are awakening, and that is the most powerful journey of all.